Hello and welcome to our weekly Bible study, continuing our series in Ecclesiastes. And this week we're looking at Ecclesiastes 5, 1 and 2. This chapter, which we'll look at larger view on Sunday, begins to talk about how we behave before God. We've learned that we ought to have some humility, and so we're going to talk about practicing that before God. We're just going to look at the first two verses tonight and just get your mind thinking about some things we've learned previously and where we're going to go with that in the future. Verses 1 and 2 say, "Keep thy foot when thou goest in the house of God, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God, for God is in heaven, and thou upon earth, therefore let thy words be few." So we've learned so far in the book of Ecclesiastes that life under the sun is vanity. That's what we started with in chapter 1. It's been a recurring theme as we've gone through Ecclesiastes. And we've also learned and seen highlighted that yes, wisdom under the sun, pleasure under the sun, labor under the sun, that is all vanity. But those things in connection with God are where we find joy. And so life connected with God brings joy. We just finished chapter 4, seeing that our life with people is part of our connection with the Lord, and those things bring joy, right? And so places like Ecclesiastes 2:26 says, "For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy." So that's where we've been. So we've been learning that we ought to pursue connection with God. And as we pursue that connection with God, that means we're awake to more than just the life under the sun. We're considering that there is a God who does control the times and the seasons, right? And so we want to pursue connection with that God. And then that brings meaning into those everyday things that without him would be empty, would be meaningless. And so we enjoy the things that he gives us today. We're not always just striving for more, not always looking for that new best thing. We can actually enjoy what we have today and right now. But what does that look like in practice? Here I think chapter 5 gives us some insight on what that life lived in connection with God would be like. And it's in keeping with what we've seen in Ecclesiastes so far, because we've seen our tendency to always be striving for more and more and more. And we get to chapter 5, and it's saying slow down, listen instead of talk, humble yourself before God. And so what are some things we can do as we want to practice this life in connection with God? Well, first of all, we ought to slow down. And verse 1 says to keep thy foot, right? So Ecclesiastes has taught us to stop running after the world, to stop striving for more and more, stop trying to always be increasing our position or working more or getting more pleasure, right? It's not always about the next best thing. It's about enjoying life with God right now. And so let's slow down. Let's actually let God be in his place of judgment, right? We're not going to get that from the world. Let's let God be in that place of judgment. Let's let God handle things, right? We can't be connected with him when we're constantly running ahead and trying to solve all of our problems on our own, right? He has appointed the times and the seasons, and we can let him lead. We don't even often know what time it is. And so let's slow down. Let's wait on the Lord to intervene and to act. And then let's listen. We not only have this idea of slowing down and stopping, but we also have this idea of listening. And so it says in verse 2, let your words be few. Certainly we wouldn't want to charge God with anything foolishly. And I think Ecclesiastes teaches us that there are different seasons that are in our lives, and we may not be sure what to do or even what time it is. And so let's not say anything foolish about or to the Lord in our impatience and impertinence. But it also involves listening to the Lord. And so spending time with him in prayer, we have that privilege, right? I don't want us to read Ecclesiastes and think, well, I shouldn't talk to God. No, we're his children. We have that privilege of going boldly before his throne of grace. But we should also be, as we're speaking to him, bringing our petitions, our requests to him, bringing our hearts to him, we should be listening to him as well. Spend time listening to him in prayer. There should be time when we're pouring out a request to him, but how often do we just stop and listen and ask God to speak to us? So let's spend time listening to him in prayer. Let's spend time listening to him in his word, right? To actually just sit with the word of God and look for what he has for us here today, how he's speaking to us through his word, and what his word has to say about our day today, right? How's this going to change how I live my life today? So just an encouragement, and we'll get into it more on Sunday morning, this idea of living our lives before God, not just under the sun, but before God. And I think as we start to approach that, just to stop, just to listen and slow down, and quit running after everything the world says we need to run after. Well, check out the description for some discussion questions. Hope this encourages you to slow down a little bit, spend a little more purposeful time listening to the Lord, and I look forward to getting into this passage deeper on Sunday. God bless you. We'll see you next time.